Troi. What is up, everyone? It is me, Troi, and I'm back in with another video. And today I'm going to be talking about my reading of Wild Star Seeking Midnight Suns by J. California Cooper. Anyway, Wild Star Seeking Midnight Suns, there's so much in that title that I'm trying to keep it together, girl, because you know I'm trying to get a check for what's going on up in this brain of mine. You know, it's a crazy check. But anyway, Wild Star Seeking Midnight Suns by J. California Cooper is a collection of between 7 and 8 or 8 and 9 short stories. If it had a table of contents page, I would be able to do a recount, but it doesn't. Nonetheless, before I talk about my experience with the book, I do want to share at least maybe 3 or 4 snippets of some of the stories. One story was called, I think, As Time Goes By. Correct? As Time Goes By. This story was about 2 different sisters who took 2 different paths in life, very much parallel to one another. One sister, she decided, you know, she's very pragmatic and practical in her thinking. She decided very early on within life that she was going to be an overachiever in school. That would subsequently open the doors up for her to go to college and then, of course, have a very esteemed job in a profession, you know, within whatever field that she chooses. And then the other sister decides, you know what, hey, what the hell, I'm gonna fall in love with this guy in high school and I'm gonna make him my man, and that's all that I want in life. So very parallel. And then the lengthiest and longest short story in the book is called The Eye of the Beholder. This one, I guess, is a lot more complex than the other ones because of the fact that it has much more length to it. But it is about a young girl named Lily B who has been verbally abused her entire life. Her mother is pretty much one of those women who just get involved with different men and use men for money, you know, to pay her rent and her utility bills and that sort of thing. And, you know, she has children. But the thing is, Lily B's mother spent the entirety of Lily B's childhood telling her daughter that she was ugly, unattractive, and that no one would want her. So very abusive, and of course leaving a lot of damaging psychological scars for Lily B. But as this short story progresses forward, we see that Lily B, has her comeuppance in a very mild-mannered way. And then another short story is one called Success, where it involves 2 different individuals, a male and a female, who have this great amount of success but are steeply pushed into their loneliness. As the short story opens up, we are going back and forth between both of their experience, sitting in front of a window while it's raining, and each contemplating whether or not they want to go out into the rain, treat their loneliness by going to a local bar and seeing if they can find someone to bring home that night. They do find each other, and then it becomes a complicated story regarding around miscommunication. So we'll keep moving forward. And then one of the stories that I'm going to give a snippet of that is not really love related or romance related is a story called Just Life Politics. It is about a woman who is the help, who is kind of working as the priest to the dying politician conservative politician that she's working for, a conservative politician who has done a lot of made a lot of damaging choices that affected her community. Girl, we could really go into that, right? But yeah, he's on his deathbed and he's seeking solace for his corrupt ways through her. Now, while there is a plethora of other short stories within this book with different characters, different circumstances, I do have to say that for the majority of each of these stories, they all read like, I'm going to give you some imagery here. They read like an old southern lady sitting on a glider in low country, you know, picking peas and beckoning you as her grandson or granddaughter to come forth, child, come forth and sit at my feet and let me tell you a story while it's dusk outside. Okay, just put that in your head. So with that being said, with that piece of imagery in your head, I will go ahead and say that from a personal standpoint, I felt like the book, although it's a short story, I feel like the book read much more like a collection of parables. And when it comes to parables, you know, there's like that defining factor with any parable that it's a cautionary tale. With Wild Stars Seeking Midnight Suns, the caution within this book, I'm going to just say this, well, for the 80 or 85% of the stories, the caution within this book is be careful who you have sex with. Okay, that's just the honest truth for me anyway. Like, not all the stories, but the majority is be careful who you have sex with, or at least be careful of the circumstances that you get involved with people with that eventually leads to sex. Because if you take this book as a collection of parables, there has to be that caution there before, you know, such and such character makes certain decisions that lead to their ultimate psychological demise. And trust me, other demises in this book, we're talking STD level demises. So that is ultimately what I feel like this book read as. You know, there's this sweet southern lady telling you the woes and the woes and the woes about the birds and the bees, while, you know, dusk is settling across the Alabama skies. Okay, we'll just keep it like that. And of course, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because as I got into the groove of reading the book, you know, reading each of the stories and finding out, okay, sex comes up here, sex comes up here, sex comes up here. Miss California Cooper at least gives us different characters in different circumstances to address the issue. So now, just to describe what I mean by how Cooper provides different cautions to the subject of sex, going back to the short story As Time Goes By, where it's about the two sisters, you know, one shot off to be successful in her profession while the other kind of stayed at home in her hometown, you know, having children with this man, or being forced to marry this man that she loved and she was obsessive of, but who just had very little regard for her. The one caution there, because she got pregnant as a teen, was to not sacrifice yourself for another individual who you know clearly does not want you. And then when we talk about the story The Eye of the Beholder, where I was speaking about the character of Lily B, whose mother spent the entirety of her childhood demeaning her and telling her that she was nothing and that sort of thing, the caution there is to not treat life through the hands of men. We'll keep it like that, if you know what I mean. So, and then the caution in the story that I spoke of called Success, about the two individuals from different wealth who was contemplating going to this club or this bar to treat their loneliness. That clearly was a story about miscommunication and how important it is to communicate to your partner, you know, what are your wants and desires before you decide to become a coupling in bed. And even the story about the politician and his help, that story was the undertone I felt there, as if it was to keep consistent with the subject or the theme of sex in this book, had a lot to do with abortion and how people who are in certain power has the ability to limit resources for people who are in a much more impoverished situation from using. And although I did feel at one point the whole subject of, okay, here we go, another story about these individuals making girl, because see, I don't like foolishness as is, so reading about some of what these people in this book was doing was getting on my nerves. And then there's the sex, and then there's the talk about God, you know, being displeased. I do want to say that one of the things that probably gave me the emotional gratification of reading this book is the fact that although, you know, they did make a lot of bad decisions as it regards the context of each of the stories, I did like how at the end of the stories, Cooper humbled these characters so far, so low, that they had no other choice but to scream out to God to help them. And I don't say that from like a religious standpoint. I'm just saying that from a place of, you know, I think we all came to this point in life where we just had to, you know, we were tired of making our own decisions, and we had to pretty much surrender the power to a higher force. So that really resonated with me, especially in the very first story. And I was just like, you know, this character is so broken, making these bad decisions, that all she's left with at the end of the story is to call out to God to help her. That resonated with me, so I did enjoy that part. Nonetheless, at the end of the day, Wild Star Seeking Midnight Suns was a great read. Some of the stories were, you know, hit or miss, really. You know, I think that the stories that didn't revolve so heavily on the subject of being cautious about sex, they were a little bit more atmospheric to me. So, you know, that's kind of it. You know, these characters, they got themselves in some very bad circumstances, trying to treat their loneliness, trying to treat their depressions, trying to treat their psychologies that were already damaged from their childhoods, trying to treat success that isn't garnering any sort of relationship with other individuals. You know, they make their decisions. But anyway, that's kind of it. Some pros and cons. You know, some people may find an issue with the book being, I mean, it's a short story collection, so I don't know if I really expected as much. But you know, some people may find issues with some stories not being fully fleshed out. At times it may read like a draft instead of a complete short story. I didn't necessarily have a problem with all that. And you know, that's pretty much it. I think I'm pretty done. So if you've read J. California Cooper, which I'm sure many of you have, then please drop me a comment down below regarding which is your favorite book and which you may suggest that I pick up next whenever I get a time to go back to the library. Anyway, see y'all later. Peace.